Hey there everybody, I am Jeff. This is Tabletop Toolbox, and I am back with another worst unboxing ever. Now, what does that, hang on. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, relax. This has nothing to do with the game itself. You see, in most unboxing videos, someone is showing you a game for the first time, and you and they really have no experience with the components in that box. But in the video that you are about to see, I have already opened this game. I have already organized this game, and I have even played this game, which means I can give you a little bit more insight into what those components do and how they interact with each other. Now, this isn't a review. I'm not here to tell you what I think. I may share some of my initial opinions, but other than that, I am just showing you what's in this box to give you a little bit more of an idea if it's something you'd like to look into. So with all that being said, let's lift the lid. All right, pretty excited for this today to show you The Last Command from Ty McDonald, self-published under the name of Sentient Games. This is with art from Alex Pushkarev. Now, this is a admittedly smaller game than those I have typically been featuring here in the worst unboxing series of videos. However, this is a game that I have been pretty excited for the release to come out this year. I ran into Ty demoing this game at PAX Unplugged a couple of years ago, kind of kept in touch as I started seeing ads for this as he was approaching the Kickstarter launch. I ended up with a prototype copy of it, which I did feature in a video here on the channel, and now I have this retail copy of the game that I am very excited to delve into. This is a deck building game set in space where two players will control a spacefaring capital ship engaged in an epic broadsides duel to the death. Now, there is a solo mode to this. I have not played it myself. I'll try and kind of introduce it to you just briefly as we get into the contents of this box. And with that being said, let me go ahead and get this open. Now, first of all, I do have actually a Kickstarter edition of this. So first of all, it has an outer sleeve, which I think this is pretty cool. Actually features different art from the main box. So you have the Sunder enemy ship here. You have the Heart of Valdispar good guys featured here in this art, and I just thought this was pretty neat. Go ahead and get that sleeve out of the way. Let's go ahead and open this one up. First of all, of course, we have a rule book, and you'll see this is a somewhat basic rule book. You've got simply white pages, but there are nice illustrations that sort of illustrate, certain features of the cards, gives you some sort of clear list of how things work, gives you all of your icon summaries here. It does a pretty good job of getting you into the idea of playing this game, lays everything out pretty clearly. And as I mentioned, there is a solo mode here, sort of detailed out towards the back right here. You'll have a solo mode. Like I said, I haven't played this. It does kind of almost looks like you're sort of basically doing two-handed, controlling the enemy ship and controlling your own ship, which kind of makes sense. I mean, just with the deck building nature of this and the fact that it is a conflict-driven, combat to the death, right? You're going to have to obviously make some decisions for the AI that would not be in your best interest as the solo player. So again, I haven't checked this out, but it is there for anyone who might be interested. Some other details on the solo play here. All right, let's go ahead and get into the contents. First of all, let me just mention these are some cubes that you will use for marking power and health and your money. In my left hand here are the plastic cubes for the retail version. These in my right hand are metal cubes for the Kickstarter edition. So let me scooch those out of the way. What I'm especially excited to show you are these playmats. These do come in the retail and Kickstarter editions of the game. Here is the upside down Heart of Valdispar ship. And then here is the Imperator Sunder ship. Again, these are kind of the bad guys, and these are the good guys. Now, the mats are the same. There's a couple of little art differences and icon differences, but your tracks are all the same. The functionality of these ships are the same. There is a little bit of an asymmetrical start that you can use, and it's just based on the cards that you start off with, and I'll show you those. Well, let's go ahead and get to those now. So, again, being a deck builder game, obviously the main feature of this game will be cards. So let me get out a couple of these decks, and I will show you what we have here. What you're going to see on this mat is that you have three systems. You have engineering, communications, and tactical. You have power tracks for each of those three systems. You have a general health bar for your ship. And then here you have basically your currency, your credits that you track here. You also have slots underneath this for your crew cards. Over here you have draw decks and discard piles. And now is probably a good time to mention that this is a dual deck builder. You will actually be running different decks for your systems and your crew cards. So let me go ahead and introduce a little bit more about that here. In my hand are all of these system cards, and I'm going to kind of organize these by system. So I have the comms cards, I have the engineering cards, and your tactical cards. I'll also mention that these are sleeved in some very nice sleeves that came with the Kickstarter edition. I don't usually sleeve my games, but I do tend to sleeve deck building games. And in this case, I do have some other stuff that I'll chat about here in a little bit, which is why I did go ahead and sleeve this game. Anyways, the way that these systems cards come out, I'll show you one here. This is the Ablative Hull. And what you're going to see, as soon as this focuses, there we go, is that you have a power cost up here in the top right. You have a currency cost up here in the top left. You have, of course, a little bit of flavor text, a nice little art presentation there. You have the main ability of this card, and then down here at the bottom you have these crew bonuses. So when you play these cards to a system, you will have to have power equivalent, equal to or above the power needed for that system. You will then reduce the power of that system to play that card, trigger that main card's effects, whatever they may be. In this case, you're drawing another card, and then this kind of mentions an ongoing effect that says any malfunctions that you may draw do not deal any damage to you, and I'll cover those, of course, here in a moment. And that's basically how this works. You're going to be playing out your system cards, taking their effects, and then moving on to your next play. To make all of those systems function, in order to provide the power for those systems, you're going to need crew cards. Let me scooch these up just a little bit so I can focus on these here at the bottom of the mats. And here we have, let me get to this part of the deck. So here we have your crew cards, and we have the same sort of breakdown of those systems. So here I have some tacticians with the little gun symbol in the corner. Here I have some communication experts with the headsets on the top right corner, and then here I have a couple of engineers. And when you play these cards out, you'll be placing them into any of the systems. They do not have to go in their relevant system, and you'll understand why here in just a moment. But I would play this, for example, Ensign NEAS, and this says gain 2 to this system, so I would increase my power by 2. And this has an and. A lot of these cards will also, or may instead feature an or ability. But this one says to gain 2 power and to gain a repair. So I'd increase my health 1 space along this track as well. Now I may come in here later on and play Ensign Jackson to this system, who also gains 2 power and deals a malfunction. And I'll still get to those in just a moment. But later on, let's say that I have this 0-point laser. Let's actually say I played these guys over here. You'll see on the bottom of this 0-point laser, as I kind of already mentioned, you've got these crew bonuses down here at the bottom, and they feature a tactician symbol and an engineer symbol. And so if I had that system here, in your turn you will play cards. You will then have a market phase where you can buy any cards, and then you go into your system bonuses. And so you look at the bottom of these cards, check to see which of those crew symbols you have present in that system at the bottom of your mat, and then you'll trigger any of those bonuses that you can once per symbol. So here I would get to deal a malfunction card to my opponent, and I would get to potentially repair a malfunction from my own deck. Now it's probably a good time to go ahead and explain those cards. I believe they are here in this deck. Yes, they are. So these are the malfunction cards. These will sit in a separate deck just kind of off the side of the table, and whenever you get the ability to deal a malfunction to an opponent, like this one here, you'll take the top card of this deck and feed it to your opponent, placing it into one of their 2 discard piles. Now, eventually those will get cycled into their deck, and when they would draw that card, they will trigger what is on it. So in this particular case, it simply says that it goes back onto the malfunction deck. Some of these, however, do more typical things, which are taking a damage. So these will typically deal damage to your opponents, but then let them draw a replacement card. So even though they did get a damage drawing this off of their deck, they would get to draw another card off of that deck which of course could also be a malfunction card. Thus some of the challenge of this game. These things are pretty nasty, I will be honest. Now, in the game, you also have, as I did kind of mention, you have, as is typical out of deck building games, you're going to have some starting cards, some starting systems, usually 3 of them, also 3 crew members, and there is even the ability of a slightly asymmetrical start. So, for example, I have 2 cards here which feature the standard Heart of Valdispar logo and this one with kind of an X behind the icon. So if you want, you can play with all 3 of the X cards, and those give you a little bit of an asymmetrical start. In this particular instance, the basic laser is the same, but some of these will be slightly different from the standard starting cards. So you have a set of these, of course, for each player. You've also got some turn reference cards, very handy, and there is a small cache expansion that came with this copy of the game, just added a couple of extra cards. You will also have a market. I did kind of mention there's a market phase in this, and this one's pretty nice because unlike some other deck building games, I'm thinking of Star Realms, which simply provides a large deck of cards, and a couple of them will be out in the market at any given time. In The Last Command, you will have separate markets for each of the 3 systems. So you'll have 2 cards always available in each of those 3 systems. You'll also have 1 of each crew type in its own separate market. So it makes it a little easier to try and get the things that you're working towards. If you need a particular type of crew to try and get a crew bonus to trigger off maybe a bit more frequently, you can just go and specifically grab that type of crew. You don't have to worry about one of them coming up in the market or being available in, a display of cards to purchase. Like usual games, deck builder games, those cards of course go to your discard pile. In a bit of a slight twist to this game, however, as I mentioned, you're kind of playing out these system cards, you're playing out the crew cards, and whenever you would go to draw and there are no cards available in your draw deck, you would wipe everything of that card type off the play area, putting it into your discard pile, then shuffling your entire discard pile and starting a new draw deck of that type. So you may have wiped all of your system cards, but still have a full complement of crew. Actually, what I have found more typically is that you'll wipe out your crew cards and start placing out new cards because, of course, the crew cards, like the system cards as well, they only trigger when they are played. It's only those bonuses at the bottom of each of your system cards that will trigger at the end of each of your rounds, each of your turns, if possible. But playing that card is the only time that you'll typically get to do most of its effects, like gaining power, dealing damage, that kind of stuff. And so you'll be wanting to cycle through those cards, keep your systems powered, and of course to keep the fight going against your opponent. That is basically The Last Command in a nutshell. I've had a lot of fun with this game. To be truly honest with you, I have found that the combos that you can build across these different systems, sometimes some of your crew members will also provide ongoing effects as long as they are in play, and it really gives you some very interesting abilities to kind of assemble in your ship. I've even played this with the designer in the past, actually at PAX Unplugged this last year, and set up a combo that he had not seen before. And it was pretty vicious. I didn't win that one, but it was a really, really fun, engaging, and even stressful fight. It really just you felt that pressure of being in that battle and just desperately trying to keep everything together until the bitter end. So I've had a lot of fun with this game. I'm anxious to see what else is coming for this game. As I did kind of mention, I've kept in touch with Ty over the past year or so. I've gotten to check out some modules that he's still working on. For example, there is a Shields module that he's hoping to put out at the end of this year, and I had a lot of fun getting to check that out. So this game is available now, and there will be more coming out for this, hopefully in the not so distant future, and I would certainly recommend going and checking that out. Hey, thanks for stopping by, thanks for watching, hope you've enjoyed this, and I will chat with you folks again soon. Cheers.